Hey there, everyone. My name is Alice.Kasper. I work at a company called Teachable, and today I'm going to tell you about how sales tax works for businesses, both large and creators, and how that ties into a concept called merchant of record. For those of you who don't know what Teachable is, we are a online learning platform that helps businesses and creators sell uh, courses, digital content, and coaching. And you might think, oh, that's not a big thing, but it's huge. A good number of our top creators make millions of dollars on our platform. Can't give the specifics. That's their information, not mine to share. But huge industry. And if you haven't even considered doing that, I recommend you do. So here we go. We're going to talk about sales tax today, merchant of record. Now, if you know what merchant of record is, I'm very impressed. Before I even start on any of this, disclaimer, I am not a CPA. I'm not a tax professional, and I'm not a lawyer or attorney. So please, if you have a specific question to your business, please reach out to a CPA, or if you're really needing help understanding the laws, maybe you need an attorney for that. So a merchant of record is the entity or party that is legally responsible for processing and handling financial transactions. And you might think, I've never heard that before. No one really talks about this. And that's true because normally it'll just kind of happen behind the scenes and you won't even know about it, or you won't really think about it until you really start to make money. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I've paid my income tax, but now what do I do? Like, I live in California and we have the franchise tax board, and they're very picky about ensuring that they get their sales tax. So there's two taxes. We are talking about sales tax today, not the income tax portion. So you're probably very familiar with the income tax portion if you are in the United States. But we're talking about sales tax. So that's the first thing to take away here. And let me give you an example of what that looks like. So Amazon, I'm going to use some big examples here. Amazon is considered a merchant of record. They are handling taxes. They're a marketplace. And so you just can, so you're going to be a hat seller. We're going to use a physical good. You're a hat seller. Here's your hat. Whoa, awesome. You got your hat. And you don't have to deal with taxes at all because Amazon's going to figure it out for you. They look and they say, hey, that customer is way out in Illinois. You're in California or wherever. We need to collect this tax. So we're going to get it from the customer. You don't have to worry about that. Awesome. Versus you sell your hat on your cute, amazing Shopify store because you want to, go get more leads and be able to like sell them and not have all your clients live on Amazon. So you're going to have to figure out taxes yourself. And you'll notice here in this checkout, there is no tax. So maybe the seller hasn't exceeded the customer state's nexus, which is a pretty technical term. It means like you haven't sold enough. Say you're selling this to California. You haven't sold enough to justify having to collect and pay out sales tax. Or maybe you didn't enter a sales tax ID. There's all these different things you have to set up in Shopify in order to collect tax if you need to. And so, but you need to figure it out. And this is the merchant being merchant of record. So you being the merchant, and versus Amazon, Amazon is technically the merchant. So they're like, we're going to collect the tax. We don't want to get audited and busted. And this one, Shopify is kind of washing their hands off. And they're like, hey, it's up to you. You figure it out. We gave you the tools. Go do it. And so Teachable works more in an Amazon type, how do I say, system right now. The good news, though, versus Amazon, not that Amazon you're going to sell any courses there, is we don't keep your client data. You can sell them. You can give them more upsells. You have their emails and contact info versus Amazon, where it's a little bit more nebulous there. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And Shopify does have a system where you can give them merchant of record, and that costs, I think, 6.5% per transaction, which is like pretty darn high. I don't know if it's worth it. I'm not sure. I'm not done it, but Teachable, we do that currently. It's included on the paid plans. It's even included on the free plans. So pretty awesome. Not all competitors do that. Some charge 15 cents just for the sales tax to be calculated. They're not even remitting. I'm not going to name names here in this video. I don't want it to get dated. So some other things what this means for you as a business owner. Okay, let's keep going here. I mentioned transaction processing. MORs will handle the entire transaction process, data compliance, and you have no idea like the issues we get here, and payment authorization, capturing funds, And ultimately, it's up to the MOR to like get the funds, release the funds, and making sure things are secure. And you don't have to go run around and worry like, wait, the credit card didn't work. Legal responsibility. MORs can be pretty picky, a little bit pickier than other platforms. Like, I mean, I think all platforms, even if they're considered formal MOR or not, are pretty picky because they don't want to have like fraudulent stuff happening on their platform. It just puts them in a precarious situation. Again, not a lawyer, but I've worked with lots of lawyers, and that's what I've observed. And but MORs are double on the hook, so they might ban you or freeze your account if you're trying to like sell some risky stuff that's not allowed to say like a MasterCard or Visa. And some of that has to do with, gambling and marijuana, things like that. You're not going to sell in marijuana on an online course, but I mean, you could sell like a how to grow type course, but things like that are risky. Again, you could probably sell that on Teachable. I'm not the fraud risk team, but you know what I mean. I'm not going to go into too many details of that, but if you have questions, you can always reach out to us, and I'll put the contact info below this video here. So as I mentioned, one of the big benefits to you is sales tax collection and remittance. Now, you might be really, really large, and you're like, oh, yes, I've met thresholds. I've sold millions, and this is not unusual for our creators and businesses. They've sold a lot. In any area where digital tax should be collected, they're going to need to collect and figure it out and collect. So that's where Teachable is really powerful and awesome. And our competitors don't do that. So that's just a plug-in for Teachable. Maybe you're selling digital goods, which we don't do at this time. Let's see here. No need to worry about it. See, make sure I have it. Let's see. But maybe here's another example where it doesn't do so well. It's not so good for you. You are kind of at the cusp. You've sold maybe $20,000 worth of digital goods, and you wouldn't technically have to get taxes from somebody if you were the MOR. So maybe you're selling in California and you've only hit 20K in California. Their online digital goods tax, don't hold me to this, but I know that for physical goods, it's 500K, and you're nowhere near that yet for the gross receipts. Yeah, not a CPA. Please don't hold this to me, but just an example. So you wouldn't technically have to get that tax from them and collect it and remit it. But because the MOR has already collected that overall the course of over the year on their entire platform, because they sell for lots of creators, they would collect and remit that tax. So your student would be charged a little bit more. But again, it's nice because you can scale and you don't have to worry about it. Okay, other benefits. Let's see. Fraud. Fraud is huge. We get a lot of complaints on Teachable. I'm just using Teachable because I have so many examples from working here. People will message us and say, hey, this student is not fraudulent, and we'll look up they'll send just an alarm here. They'll send an email to us of the student, by student I mean customer. They'll send the customer's email to us, and it's clearly fraudulent. It's a Proton email. The zip code doesn't match, the IP is wrong. So we'll tell them, hey, it's fraudulent. And then sometimes it isn't, and it's just our system being a little bit picky, and we'll say, okay, it's not. We've let it go, manually accepted the payment. But the reason MORs tend to be a little bit more picky is because if that person is fraudulent, we're accepting the money, we're taking the money, we do a payout to you, the business, and they do something fishy, we get left holding the bag. MORs get left holding the bag a lot. And that's why they tend to add on a few more fees, because the risk falls on the MOR. So you might be wondering, why is this fee here? It's because it's expensive to do this and handle sales tax and handle audits and all that stuff. So the other thing that could happen too, which we're trying to protect the businesses from, is a fraudulent credit card comes through. They take your course content, do some sort of chargeback, funny activity. The MOR will get dinged with a chargeback, which is really bad. And a chargeback is where a person goes into their credit card and disputes it. So the fraudster has your course, and then you got ripped off. You didn't get the money. Teachable got a ding. So that's why we just like to avoid fraud and are a little bit more picky about blocking fraudulent or sus looking things. Okay, currency conversion. This is a benefit. I do think that platforms that aren't MOR also do this, so I'm not going to speak to it too much. Fees, I mentioned fees already. Drawbacks, let's see. The MOR will likely charge sales tax based on their total sales and number of transactions. So sometimes there are some situations where you might be part of a platform and they're not collecting the tax that you need them to collect and remit. And maybe it's because they're not responsible, but you as the person living in the area are responsible. So a situation that happens here is Canada to Canada transaction. So a domestic Canadian transaction. So you live in Quebec and you sell to someone in your province. So Teachable will not be collecting that domestic sales tax because they're the MOR and they're not responsible based on the laws today. But the creator, so we've had creators be like, oh, so I have to get the tax and remit, and they're pretty aware of this. So what happens in that situation is a creator will just have to charge more. So maybe they'll be like, okay, I have to collect 10% and remit. So I'm going to charge, instead of $100, $110. And then I'll just, at the end of the year, send that over to the government. So it's a few countries, but you can click on this list to learn more about that. Let's see. So I'm going to give you one more example of how Teachable handles tax. So you can see this is a situation where Teachable, which is the example I'm talking about, is you've entered in a France address and boom, there's the tax. Now, if you're a French person or an EU person or someone who's not US, you're like, why is there tax? Because France is a tax inclusive area. So good news, we launched a feature here where you can cover tax as a merchant or a merchant, aka business or creator, and then your customer won't see this tax. You'll just be covering it. So we recommend in these situations you charge more if you're going to do that. It's called tax inclusive pricing. In the United States, we have tax exclusive pricing. So you go and you buy a Big Mac and you see $5 and then you have to pay in California 9% tax. So I'm paying an extra 9% tax, not just $5. In Europe and pretty much everywhere else in the world, you see $5, you pay $5. So that's just a interesting US versus the world. Maybe not versus, but compared to the world. So let's see, I'm going to stop sharing here. I think that answers like the bulk of what I was trying to go for, just like the pros and cons. And I hope this helps you with your sales tax journey and understanding. If you have questions, again, you can reach out to me. Thank you for listening. And sorry, a lot of Teachable examples, but that's just because that's what I see day in and day out. But this could apply to a lot of other platforms too. And good luck with your sales, and I hope you're doing really well with your business.